Well, hey there, it's Elka.
Can you start again? Sorry, I was looking at your computer.
Okay. Well, hey there, it's Elka.
And Jen, and welcome to another episode of the Creative and Ambitious Entrepreneur Podcast. And we're talking to you about mindfulness acts for the creative entrepreneur.
And this is very important because studies have shown that if you are more mindful and you help use mindfulness as a way to center yourself and keep yourself aligned, you're going to be more productive, you're going to have a better outlook on life, and you're also going to be able to manage your business better, which is really key for online entrepreneurs. Mm-hmm. So we're going to cover some points today, and these points are really just touching the surface of how you can be mindful, but we're going to give you some things that you can take away from this podcast so that you can start becoming more mindful in your daily practice. And it's really quite simple, actually. It's just remembering that these are things that, even though they seem simple and they don't, like, you're not like just creating a corporate empire, you're just doing certain really small things, they're actually more important because they're having more effect on how your state of being is, how your mindset is, and it's allowing you then to deal with whatever comes along for the day. And that's really important when you're running your own online business. Mm-hmm. Okay, so the ones that we're going to cover today are meditation, journaling, be in the moment, and turn a negative into a positive. Mm-hmm. And we teach this all the time in our Creative CEO Mastermind. We teach it a little bit in our Profit by Design Academy, but the Creative CEO Mastermind is where we dive in really deep into these plus others. And what we love is the way the weight of people's shoulders goes down and the way they go, this is all that's needed, and then how good they feel after they start becoming more intentional and doing these things on a daily basis and whenever they're faced with situations that, move them into that stress mode. Mm-hmm. And understand how the mindfulness, when you're locked into that, can get rid of so many different things. If you look into the studies, there's actually even proof that some people who are dealing with a lot of mental issues in terms of depression and anxiety, they're actually doing better just by being mindful. Mm-hmm. So here we're going to just focus in on the fact that you can do this as an online entrepreneur, but especially with COVID and you're being alone and at home and you're not as able to be out with people, even more so now than you were before because you're working from home online maybe. This is going to be really key and change, maybe even transformative. Even though we're just doing a podcast, you don't maybe, you're going to touch on what could be possible if you just explore this more, right?
Mm-hmm, definitely.
Okay, so you want to do the first one, which is meditation?
Sure. So we've written some key points here in terms of meditation. So
because we can talk forever on these.
Meditation sometimes can be a little bit of a scary thing for some people because we have so many things going on in our brain and we feel like we can never fully shut off. And I am a huge culprit of this. I'm thinking a mile a minute, and sometimes it's very hard for me to just sit still and to not really even think about anything and just be calm and sort of get that alignment with my mind and my body. So for anyone who is thinking about meditation is really something amazing to try and focus on and like build your skills up on. And even if it's for a couple seconds at the beginning, just to clear your brain, then it'll actually really help you going forward. And you can bump up those seconds to minutes and maybe even half an hour or so, because meditation fully allows you to be at one with yourself and sort of shut the world out and just be very aware of what's going on in your conscious, subconscious, and like sort of around in your surroundings without the noise of all the things that you're usually thinking about in your brain. So you want to be still, you want to breathe, you want to calm your mind, and you maybe want to do this first thing in the morning, just because as soon as you wake up, you're kind of like fresh and you're not really thinking about everything that's going to happen during the day, hopefully. But at the end of the day, you've got all of the memories and all the things that have been sort of present during those hours that you've been awake, and so your mind is much more active at nighttime. You might be tired physically, but your mind is thinking about all the things that you did that day. So when you first wake up is the best time to do the meditation, because you're sort of like starting fresh with a clean slate, and so this way you will also start the day off to a good start.
With setting the mood, right?
Yeah, setting the mood and having that feeling of being calm and a sense of like awareness of what you want to focus on during the day.
But be really kind to yourself. Like Jen said, it doesn't always happen right away that you can spend 10 minutes meditating without being distracted by your own brain.
Yeah. Yes. No, have a couple seconds even and just sort of breathe and feel, like take a deep, deep breath in and be calm and sort of try and still your mind. And even if there's, during this past year, it's been really difficult for people. It's been hard. We've faced a lot of hardships, situations and things that we haven't actually ever been presented with in our entire lives. So meditating is going to be difficult at the beginning because there's lots of stress, there's overwhelm, there's frustration, there's nervousness, there's uncertainty. A lot of these feelings are very present within our daily lives. And so meditation will actually help you relieve some of these feelings. And even though they're still present, everybody is in a different situation and during this crazy time of COVID, but meditation will help you understand that, even though that things are happening to me right now, even in this moment, I can find a little bit of peace and I can be calm and still and hopefully, erase all of those feelings that you're having in terms of it being a negative and turn it into a positive, even for that couple of seconds that you're able to do the meditation for.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and the idea is you can be as geeked out about meditation as you want to, or it can be just a couple of seconds where you're actually not thinking of anything else. You're just going to be still, right? Because you can be like, oh, I have to be put incense on, I have to be on my yoga mat, I have to be cross-legged. All of those things are like different levels of meditation, but you can easily just do it even while you're still lying in bed in the morning. Just don't let anything come into your mind and do some breathing. That's all you really need to do to get started, and then you can get more and more sophisticated when it comes to how you're going to do the meditation. Okay, point number 2, journaling. So this one I'll take on.
Sure.
All right, so a couple of points that we want to cover. First off is allow the journaling not to be, like, you can do a gratitude journaling, you can do all kinds of stuff, and we're actually going to touch on turning a negative into a positive more so in point number 4. But first, sometimes depending on your state, like, are you very troubled, are you very stressed, do you have to deal with a lot of anxiety and so on, then it could be that, and like, I can't medically claim that this is going to work for you. If you have anxiety, you've got to try all kinds of things and get medical attention. However, what you can do is unburden yourself with negative thoughts, and that is one way that you can do journaling, right? Other ways are putting down some affirmations or putting down what you're grateful for, that kind of thing. But another way to do journaling is actually to do like a data dump. And the fact that you're you're doing this data dump where you're just writing thoughts, and then the thoughts on paper start to develop. And then so instead of you having something in your mind that you don't quite get, or you don't have your finger on it yet as to what it is, but it's bothering you and it's upsetting you and it's causing triggers for when you're in certain situations, that data dump type of journaling might be really helpful for you to get to the bottom of what it is that is troubling you, because I can't really articulate it yet because it's more in your subconscious than in your conscious mind. And until you journal and just let things flow and don't think about it too much and just start writing, you may not actually even tap into it. But once you do, you'll be surprised, right? You'll either be really surprised that this is what's troubling you because consciously you think, no, it's fine, I've already dealt with that. But if it's still subconsciously in your mind, this could be a huge wake-up call for you so that you can actually start to deal with what it is that's still troubling you. And allow those emotions to come out rather than them being carried, and the burden of carrying them is within you in your mind. And we carry a lot of subconscious burdens, and I want you to we both are going to give you permission today to do a little bit of that, to unburden yourself with these subconscious thoughts that are burdening you, that you might not even understand are truly burdening you. You're just kind of trying to do your best, right? Which we all are. But once you come to that conclusion as to how those thoughts might be actually affecting you, it's going to be a huge transformation, because then you're going to be able to deal with them, right? Because right now you don't even really understand or know what it is that's troubling you in that regard. But when you start to be mindful and do this journaling, you're allowing your mind to provide you consciously what it is that your mindfulness is always thinking of in the background, right? And we don't want that to be part of the noise. You know how when you have like tinnitus and in your ears and it's hard to hear things because there's an extra noise? Well, this is what's the extra noise, is all these things that are troubling you so that you can't be as mindful. But once you start to deal with them, then the mindfulness will kick in and it'll actually start to put those into place wherever they belong. So you'll gain perspective. You'll also be acknowledged for the things that are troubling you that you were trying to put back because maybe they're not something you can talk about or share with anyone, or you're embarrassed because you don't want to have anyone know that this is what you're thinking. All of these things give you that permission now because you're going to do this in a journaling format. And I think this is going to be really cathartic for you. Okay. Now, obviously, at the beginning, and this is a caveat to doing the journaling. You're supposed to do this journaling like once a day in the morning, and you're just supposed to like tap into things. It's not supposed to be like like a 5-day seminar on how to get rid of every single thing that's bothering you in your minds and your subconscious. That's going to take time, and allow yourself to do it bit by bit so that it's not overwhelming. Okay, so understand that you don't have to solve every single problem the minute it arises, and you don't have to say, wow, I've got a lot of stuff going on that I need to deal with and like I should just go back to bed, because that's not what you want. You want actually to say like, oh, okay, so I'm getting closer to understanding what it is that's happening in my mind that's not allowing me to be the full present person that I really could be and should be, to enjoy this life and to be the best I can for others and for myself. All right, so you want to be, and that segues into being in the moment, which is point number 3. Do you want to do point number 3?
Go for it. Go for it.
Oh,
You're
okay.
on a roll, yeah.
I'm on a roll. Okay. Well, this is a really tough one that I had to work with. I don't know. Have you also been really struggling with the be in the moment? And if you say yes, that's great, because if you say no, I'm going to like
No, I think
already.
so. I definitely think
Well,
so.
it
Yeah.
even goes down to like being in the moment. If you're doing something, right, and all of a sudden you get a ding on your phone, that's why I'm joking, because we're so used to that. There's a ding on our phone, and it's like whatever we were doing, even if something really important, cooking on the stove, talking, doing something really important with someone that you're together with, in terms of a discussion, or listening to someone's. They're telling them their condition, their heartfelt story, and all of a sudden your phone rings and you go, just a minute, or you're actually just typing. It's like, I'm still listening. And it's like, no, you're not, because you're not in the moment anymore, right? And that's one aspect. But then the other aspect is intentionally be in the moment every day, because the other really important thing is that if you're not in the moment, then you're allowing the past, which is all your other thoughts, right? The thing that we talked about with the journaling, to come in to sabotage your day, because you're allowing the past to dictate what's happening right now. And then even worse, you're allowing the past to dictate what's happening now, and you're fearful for how that might be in the future. So you've got so much going on in your mind that you can't even like show up 100% while you're physically awake and doing stuff. And that is just a common thing that's happening throughout this world right now because of so many things that we have as distractions. And because of that, you've got too much noise. The tinnitus is just right there. It's just covering a lot of stuff, and you're trying to get through to what's really important. And then you're going to be so much happier, and you're going to be so much calmer. Nothing's going to faze you because you're just like in the moment. You're not bringing expectations in from the past. You're not defining your future. You're just going to let it happen, and you're going to be like right in the moment. And that allows you to be extremely joyful and happy about what's happening now, even if it's a bad thing. And we are going to get to that point next, but I just want to make sure. And so what you're going to do is, so what you can do besides just that intention to be intentional, mindful every day with full intention, but you can also do little activities that bring you into that state of mindfulness. And this is really good because they're little tiny things, take 5 to 10 minutes. And so even if you've had a rough day, you started the day okay, things happen, you're kind of like in that bad state again, you can easily take a walk for 10 minutes and then just promise yourself that in that walk you're going to be extremely mindful of just what's happening. Footprints crunching on the leaves on the ground, birds chirping in the trees, and you can hear them in the distance. The fact that it might be like a beautiful spring day and you see flowers coming up from the ground, or it might be fall and you notice the colors on the trees, or it might be a cloudy, windy day and you feel the wind against your face, and then every so often a bit of moisture because a little bit of rain coming down. Those are the kinds of things that once you're doing that, you're certainly mindful. You're extremely all in the moment, and you're catching all the things that normally just go into our subconscious and go like, yep, leaves are turning color, yeah, I'm walking, my foot's going one in front of the other, so instead, be in that moment, enjoy it, live it, experience it, so that thought can also be within your subconscious for later, so that when you're doing your journaling, you're actually coming up with those thoughts rather than the just all the negative stuff, which we sometimes just go like, our life is a mess, everything is like so bad for us. No, it's not actually. There's a lot of good in the world, and it's just our way of focusing as to how we determine what that is, as to whether it's on the good side or on the bad side. Okay, so some other things could be like breathing exercises. Another biggie is connecting with someone. So even though we can't physically be with people right now, if you're still under COVID lockdown, you can connect by Zoom. That's why Zoom's been so important, and like any kind of video chat or a call or like text, not so much, but something where there's an interaction, immediate response from the other person, so that you've got some live chat going. That's you can hear the other person, you can see the other person. That's a connection, and that is something that's really important in our lives. You can see that when seniors are very alone and isolated, they just deteriorate and degenerate, right? And you need contact, you need physical and emotional feelings that you can interact and exchange with other people, and this is really important and allows you to then connect. If you're completely mindful and 100% there for that in the moment, then that feeds your body, it feeds your health, it feeds your soul, because it makes life worth living, right? This is huge, and we forget that we don't have to just be on our computers and watch movies and reruns and anything that is coming in at us digitally. We need that human connection, even if it is through digital Zoom. Okay, so that's that. And then now we're going to move into turning a negative into a positive. I'm sure you want to take that one on.
Sure.
Yeah? We have some points, right? Do you want to do the points?
Sure, I'll read the points first.
Okay.
So you can't change what you did or did not happen. Sorry, you can't change what did or did not happen, but you can change your attitude towards the event or the situation.
Yes.
And so it's very true. Like, things happen to us all the time. Good things and bad things, really crappy things, horrific things even, and sometimes
life and death things even.
Yeah, and sometimes we are very much affected by what has happened, and very, very much affected by what's happened even years later. That's why PTSD happens, and post-traumatic stress, and depression and anxiety and things like that. And although, as Elka mentioned before, we can't give any medical advice, and we're not trained psychiatrists or psychologists or even doctors, but we can give you advice in terms of what we've experienced on our own personal basis. And we have definitely had really hard things happen in our lives previously. And for my own personal experience, I was defining myself on who I was and how I acted based on what had happened to me. And that was not a fun road to go down, because in the end, I was a negative person, and I was a very sad person and a very depressed person. And I was just always, even if something good was happening, I was always reflecting on the past and how I never actually thought the future could be even better than what had happened, on multiple different occasions, right? And I think that turning a negative into a positive, although it's really, really hard in that moment, once you get past that hump where it still stings and it still really hurts deep down inside, you can take your experience and you can say, I've lived and I've learned from that. And hopefully going forward, if something happens to me that's equally negative or even worse or slightly less worse, then I can take it with a grain of salt and say, hey, this is happening right now. I'm in this moment. I'm aware of what's going on. But moving forward, I have to realize that at the end of the day, can I take this information and help me become a stronger person? and help me understand how going forward I can be in a situation like this and not react the way that I did before, react differently so that myself, I'm taken care of. Because at the end of the day, you're the only person in this entire world who's going to take care of yourself fully, 100%. You can have people who look after you. You can have friends and family who love you and say things or, give you encouragement or motivate you. Or, if you're actually like physically sick, they will help you, bring you chicken noodle soup or all of those things. But at the end of the day, you are battling with your mind, and your mind is a very powerful thing. And if you don't hone in on what's happening in your mind, it can really be detrimental to your physical and your mental health. But then also, of course, we're here talking about business and Zazzle. It's extremely detrimental to your business, because at the end of the day, you are your biggest asset in your business, and you're the only person who's going to get up and start working on the computer and do what you need to do to make money online. And so turning a negative into a positive, that was a long explanation, but you need to really focus in on why you're feeling certain things at that point in time. And if you can, as I said, just hone in on that energy and say, okay, this has happened. How can I move forward? It's going to take a while. It's not like a snap of the fingers, but it's definitely something that will help you moving forward come over these huge hurdles. Because as I said before, this year has been really stressful. Past 2020 has been extremely stressful and challenging, and so many emotions, like a huge roller coaster of emotions. And I think at the beginning we were stunned, we were shocked, we were nervous and scared, and now we're coming out at the end and saying, hey, there's a light at the end of the tunnel, and how can I go moving forward, and how can I change what happened last year into something much better this year? Because even though it was a horrific situation, there are still things that are going to happen in the future, whether it be a sickness or an illness or a death or, mental, like something that happened to you as well in terms of your mental health. And you have to make sure that you can try your hardest to get out of those and turn things into a positive. So for example, I like to do some journaling where I say, hey, I say a negative statement like, it's a cold and nasty winter day outside. It's freezing and I hate it. And then I would take a positive and say, hey, it's beautiful. The sun is shining and the snow on the ground looks amazingly gorgeous. And, there's nature happening. I can hear the birds and I have a beautiful view and I'm alive and I'm able to experience this wonderful day, even though it's cold and it's winter, but I'm still here and I'm able to enjoy it to the fullest. I know that was one example for something completely random, but general. But you can take a negative statement and always flip the coin and change it into a positive.
Yeah. It doesn't negate the negative. That's really important, because especially when you're dealing with more than just, it's cold outside, when you're dealing with really big issues and traumatic experiences, you don't condone them. You don't accept them, that they, as punishment or for your whatever happened to you. It's more that you're just using mindfulness and this technique of turning a negative into a positive as a way to deal with the situation without it eating you up even more than what the situation is doing to yourself. Mm-hmm. And I think that's really important for you to understand, that if you choose to consider something good out of it, learning, a teaching, a way of looking at it so that you can survive it and get over it and get past it, that's much more important than honing on the negative, allowing the negative to overwhelm you, take over your thoughts. Because even if it turns into something that's terribly horrible, like maybe someone told you have so many months to live, and this is really morbid, but then do you, like most people who are given that kind of news, they go through this process very fast because they realize it's not necessary, and they're wasting their time thinking of anything negative. They want to make the best of whatever they have left, and it's always that case, because you end up looking at what's the most important thing in your life, and you realize sticking to the negative parts and not looking at what's positive, since there's nothing you can do about it anyway, then you are choosing to live your life that you have left. And that's what we can take from situations that aren't so dire, and we can do that. Why are we spending so much of our time letting the negativity control us? We can still acknowledge that it's going to happen. We're not really we're not curing it per se, if that's the case, but we are allowing us to be present in the moment and do the best we can with every day that we've got. And that's huge, because that's actually that's our mission statement on Earth, isn't it? And then we allow all these other things to get in the way. But if we can just be present, be our best selves every day, and be mindful of the joy that is in our lives, even if there's negativity, you've got it made. And whether you're like an online entrepreneur and being on like a business like we are on Zazzle, or you're just like a person that just wants to be the best they can be while they're here on Earth, awesome, right? So this is why we love this topic. We can talk about it for a long time. We can help you with more like the deep whys and how you can get into these mindset shifts. Obviously, I've mentioned a couple of times before with the Creative CEO Mastermind, it's a huge transformative event and experience that our students go through, which is really fun to see the change. But for now, you've got a huge amount of great information that you can now implement in your life to see if you can become more mindful so that you can be more successful as an online entrepreneur. So thank you so much for listening or watching.
And we will see you in the next episode of the Creative and Ambitious Entrepreneur Podcast. Bye.
Bye.